Hello folks, welcome to the canal channel Jose. Today we got this Guardian Ultra Source 1500 watt generator, and sometimes we explain it in a different video. We're gonna leave that link right below about the starter not coming on or not working when you press the start button. But now we're gonna show you what can cause the problem for no fuel, and that is gonna be a solenoid valve most commonly. And we're gonna show you how to test it and how to get to it. So first of all, you got to check your fuel line. The valve is on, your fuel on. There's fuel coming all the way out to where it goes right into the carburetor. So if there's no problem between there, then the solenoid valve might be the problem, and we're going to show you how to diagnose that and how to get to it. So for that, we're going to use a really small amount of tools, and we're going to expose how to do that, and we'll show you. So as you're looking at your generator, your engine, there's the start button here, stop and start. So there's this plate that covers the solenoid valve, which is located right behind this area. So we're gonna have to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 16 bolts to remove that plate and get access to the solenoid valve, so we can test it, take it off and test it and see if that's a problem. So one thing about this, when you're taking all the bolts off, this bolt right up here by the start button, that has the ground to the solenoid valve, which goes right in there. So if this, when you're taking it off, make sure that this is, be careful, this wire is right there. It's between the intake manifold and the plate, and the screw or the bolt tightens everything into it. So that's how the solenoid valve grabs the ground. So if this wire was loose somewhere in there like that, and it was never getting ground, that could be the first problem, because it was not connected. So that's one detail or one thing I want to throw out there. So in case, start by checking if that wire was connected. If it wasn't connected, there's just connected, and that might be the problem, because there you don't have to take that off unless it was connected and you had no response. Then we have to get into the solenoid valve to test it. But I just want to throw that out there. So now we remove the plate and we know the ground is this. So we turn it a little bit and we find that the red wire is the positive, and then that goes right along in the back over here and it plugs right onto this connector. So we disconnect that, and this is our positive. So you can pull it this way and grab positive and negative, and this is the solenoid connector, and this is how it looks. Disconnected it. This connects to the solenoid valve, and this is the positive and negative. So you can test it right here and see and hear a click on that valve. So we're gonna put 12 volts to it and see if that makes a noise, a click. For this test purpose, we're gonna be using this 12-volt battery, small. So we're gonna connect the negative to the negative and the positive to the positive, and we're gonna hear if that valve makes any noise. And it makes noise, so we're gonna get the microphone closer so you can hear what it makes. So in case you gotta remove the solenoid valve, what you have to do is, once you tested it and you found no noise, or you found noise, but we're gonna do it for a educational purpose. So what you do is you just pull that connector straight out, and that leaves the solenoid valve right in there by itself. So what you do is you gotta use a 3/4 socket, deep socket, to take that solenoid valve off, and we're gonna show you how we do that. It's just a 3/4 inch socket, and some fuel is gonna come out, so be ready for some fuel to spill, and you put a rag or somehow to catch the fuel so it doesn't keep coming. So then other thing, make sure your valve from the fuel on the tank is off, so it doesn't keep pushing fuel through it, in case just gravity does its job. So when you're taking this solenoid valve out, pull it straight out and don't tilt it down, because this tip might come off completely and there's a spring in there. So this is what stops the fuel coming into the carburetor. So you want to make sure you don't lose this part. If in case this solenoid doesn't work, what you can do is you can take this tip off, and that if it doesn't work, and you can get rid of this area, and you can always have fuel into the carburetor, but the only shut off point will be at the tank. That's in case for emergency. So you can just remove this, but we're going to show you what we mean by how it works. So then the connector goes right in the back, and then you have positive and negative, and this is how the solenoid valve is when it's inside there. So we're going to show you how it works. So now we're going to put positive and negative to this solenoid valve, and we're going to show you how it works and how it should work. There will be fuel, no fuel, fuel, no fuel. So when you got it off, you flip the first time into the generator. What the valve does, it receives positive, so it goes like this. It hides the tip, so now it's a valve that has let fuel going into the carburetor. Now you push, and then the starter kicks in. So now the starter kicks in, there's fuel, and there's going to be spark going into the system. So now you got the generator running. Now you flip the switch once, and you shut the power and you shut the fuel, because the solenoid valve didn't receive any 12 volt anymore, so it shuts itself. There's 12 volts going into it, there's no 12 volts going into it. So this is a shut off valve at the carburetor, and the same switch kills the spark going into the spark plug, so both systems get isolated and shut down, so the generator shuts down. So next time you want to start it up, you flip it once, the valve hides or opens, and now when you flip it again, you start the starter, and the spark goes in, the fuse is ready to go, and everything starts working normal. You shut it off, and the valve closes. So all it does is that this valve, when it comes out, when it's in, it lets fuel in, and when it's out, it's pressing against a little opening that doesn't let the fuel come in to the carburetor. So one thing, if this valve is not working and you took it out and it's not doing this with 12 volts, what you can do for emergency purpose, you can take this guy out, and the spring, so you don't lose it, and what you do is you put them away in a safe place, and you can use this valve as a plug. So now all you have, there's no valve, there's no obstruction when you shut the generator. But what you have to do is now you have to go over there in the fuel tank and shut the valve, because the fuel with the gravity is going to keep coming in. So you shut that over there, and when you shut the generator off, now you cancel the spark, but there's gonna be fuel still kind of flowing from the gravity, so you don't want it to overfill the carburetor. So what you do is you shut it at the fuel. So now if you tested that this is good or bad and you got a new one, now we put it back in, and if it was a bad one and you don't have one, take this out. You can run your generator without this tip, and in the meantime you get a new one. And if it works and it's fine, then your problem wasn't the solenoid valve. So the problem might be somewhere else with the fuel. So we put this back in. So now that we're putting the solenoid valve back in, make sure you don't lose the spring or this tip, and make sure this O-ring is good conditions, because otherwise it'll leak fuel through there. So now we put it back in, and then we connect our connector. So now you grab your positive wire, you feed it through the back of the plate, and it's pretty simple. And then what we do is we plug it into the plug of the positive, and now that should take care of the positive side. Now we can go and start putting our plate back in there with the ground on this bolt over here, so it doesn't interfere with the wire of our choke. And well, folks, and we replaced, or we did whatever we needed to do to the valve, if we had to replace it or just tested it to see if it worked or not. So that's a cheap way to find out if the solenoid valve is working or not, by taking it off and doing what we did. And if it wasn't working, you put the new one in, you connected it, you put your plate back on, and now you can start your generator. And hopefully that was the problem, with no fuel to the carburetor. So it was just a 5/16 bolts and a 3/4 inch socket for the solenoid valve, and then we put back everything as it was. Well, folks, we wanted to expose a quick and easy test for a solenoid, about bad or good solenoid valve, in case you're getting no fuel to the carburetor. So if there's no obstruction on the line all the way to the carburetor, and you don't know what else can be, so we show you where the solenoid valve is, how to take it off, and how to test it with a 12 volts. All it needs is 12 volts. So you tested it outside, and if it works fine, then that's not a problem. So, and if it doesn't work, now you know you tested it outside and it doesn't move, now you have to replace it. So that's how to take it off, replace it, or get it to work without the tip, so for emergency purpose. But you have to shut the valve at the gas tank whenever you shut it down, so the flow of the gas stops. So that's the solenoid valve. So as soon as you flip your switch to start, it actuates and it lets fuel into the carburetor. When you shut it down, you cut the power and it shuts. It's a valve, so that's why it's a solenoid valve. So we explain it pretty simple, cheap, and an expensive inspection, so that way you find out what the problem is on the solenoid valve, if it's that solenoid valve. So if you like this video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in el canal Echano Jose.